All right, cool. So with week one now in the books for the NFL, there were some really good games throughout week one with Ravens, Bills, Steelers, Jets, the Monday night game, Vikings and Bears. With week two coming up in a few days, I think this is going to be some really good games to look forward to on Sunday. All right, cool. So starting off the AFC first, we'll start off with Cleveland and Baltimore. So for Cleveland, last week they played Cincinnati and Baltimore. They probably had the game of the year last week with Buffalo. I'm leaning closer to the Ravens just because I believe they're going to be able to run the ball more consistently than the Browns. I think the defense is going to be able to hold up. And with the Browns' case, I think they're going to be able to run the ball not that bad, but with the Ravens' defense, I think they're going to be able to make stops a little bit more often and force up in third and longs a little bit more often, forcing Joe Flacco to make plays that I don't know if he'll be able to make consistently as they can running the ball. All right, cool. So moving on with the Jacksonville Cincinnati game, I think this will be a good game too. I'm leaning towards Cincinnati just because I think they'll be able to run the ball with Chase Brown a little better. And I don't think with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, I don't think that offense is going to be held under 17 points as they did last week against Cleveland. So I don't see that as an offense like that. I don't see them going under 20 points on 2 games in a row. And for Jacksonville's case, I think they'd be able to push the ball down the field pretty well. They had a good game last week against Carolina as well. Travis Hunter, he played wide receiver. We'll see. It's going to take some more time to see how Jacksonville wants to balance him out as a wide receiver slash D back. All right, cool. So moving on with New England and Miami. So this is a game that I would lean closer toward New England. This is a game that's gonna both teams gonna take the opportunity to build some momentum and get that week one loss out of their head, out of their back of their minds. No team's gonna go 17, 18 and 0 and then go undefeated in the playoff. That's just way too hard to do anyway. So it's just better to get that one loss out of the way, get it over with, and I'm just leaning toward New England because for Miami, it's last week against the Colts. They just look really, really ugly, and it just makes me worry that for Tua and for Miami's future, just how much can they clean up these miscues? All right, cool. So moving on to the Buffalo and the Jets. I think this is going to be a good game to itself. The Jets they put up a good game last week against the Steelers, and Aaron Rodgers return whatever revenge tour game, whatever you want to call it. Um, I think this is everything that you would want out of Justin Fields if you're a Jets fan and hoping everything goes the best. I mean, he made good throws to Justin to not Justin Fields. He made good throws to Garrett Wilson. He made good plays with his legs. I just think the Bills, especially how they played last week, they're on a whole nother level, which also leads me to why I would lean toward the Bills. Josh Allen, the Bills, they're just on a whole nother level compared to the Jets. All right, cool. So moving on, we have the Broncos and the Colts. I think this is going to be a good game for both teams too, and I think they're going to be able to see how well and see where their players are at. So for the Colts aspect of it, Daniel Jones had a career game last week. I think they're going to be able to run the ball really well against the Broncos. And I think Daniel Jones is going to be able to make throws when asked. For the Colts, not for the Colts, for the Broncos aspect of it, I don't think Bo Nix is going to have a struggling game as he did last week against the Titans, as obviously he threw 2 picks, but they were still able to score 20 points against the Titans in a game where Bo Nix struggled. They were able to run the ball really, really well. Um, I think when it comes down to it, I think it's going to come down to the Broncos. I just don't believe Daniel Jones is going to be able to make throws consistently as he did in that Miami game because I believe the Broncos defense is a way better defense than Miami. All right, cool. So moving on between the Vegas Raiders and the Los Angeles Chargers, I think both quarterbacks are going to be playing really well. I think Gino and Justin Herbert are going to be making throws when asked. I just think Justin Herbert is going to be more consistent than Gino. I think it's going to be a close game, and when it comes down to it, I think Justin is going to be more consistent than Gino is going to be. All right, cool. So moving on, we have the Rams and the Titans. I'm leaning towards the Rams because I just expect the defense to kind of overwhelm Cam Ward and this Titans offense, this young offense that's trying to establish itself and trying to find its own identity in a way. So with the Rams, just more experienced players, more experience, um, more better overall the defense. I think it's just gonna be a one-sided game. Moving on next, we have Seattle and Pittsburgh. This will be a cool little. The game's in Pittsburgh, but this is a cool little revenge game, I guess you can call it, for DK Metcalf. And that's also why I would probably lean toward the Pittsburgh Steelers in this game. Last week, Sam Darnold looked like he struggled a bit. People, media were calling, saying that it's already time for Jalen Milroe to get into the game. I don't want to go that early, but I was also skeptical on Sam Darnold. I mean, throughout his whole career, except the 1 year with the Vikings, you know, you see what it is, and for that 1 year with the Vikings, it's just funny how kind of we'll see as time goes throughout the season, but it's like almost as if I don't know if it was just a Kevin O'Connell thing, but like it was almost like everything for Sam Darnold, not so much the Vikings, just Sam Darnold specifically as a player. Like a lot of things was almost an anomaly, or kind of went their way, or they were just lucky to find themselves on the lucky end of the stick. So anyway, for Pittsburgh side aspect of it, I can see DK. This could be a DK game, like five, six, eight catches. I don't know, anywhere between over 100 yards, 100 to like 120 receiving yards, maybe a touchdown or two. All right, cool. So moving on with Kansas City and Philadelphia, I think a rematch of last year's Super Bowl. I think this will be a good game. Some people may think this will be a one-sided game based on how well Kansas City played last week and how Philadelphia just they would have been more dominant if they had Jalen Carter. They still won the game against Dallas either way, but I think this will be a good game. It'll be a good rematch of last year's Super Bowl, but I'm going to lean toward the Eagles just because I think the defense overall is going to play a little better with Jalen Carter, and they're going to be able to generate a little bit more pass rush and stop the run. And I think Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are going to make more plays than the Chiefs. All right, cool. So moving on with the Tampa Bay Bucks and the Houston Texans game, this would be a good game and stuff too. So Tampa last week they came back with that late comeback win against Atlanta, and Houston they had a tough game last week against the Rams. I'm going to lean towards Tampa though, just because I believe Baker has better playmakers, better guys to make plays than Houston. Not saying that Houston has bad players, bad wide receivers and running backs, whatever. I just believe Tampa has more versatile players and more numbers, more options that Baker has to throw or to hand off, and guys to make run after the catch or make missed tackles and run after the catch. All right, cool. So the next game, moving on with the NFC, moving on with the Thursday night matchup, actually with the Commanders and Green Bay. For Green Bay side of it, the defense looked great. They're going to be pretty much a top 10 team, offense and defense overall. They're going to be a top 10. Most weeks they're going to be a top 5 team throughout the whole year. Micah's a beast. He's gonna make plays that's not gonna really show up in the stats. He requires a lot of double teams, and even though it's just 2 games, all the other defenders like Rashawn Gray, they're able to make plays because Micah requires a double team a lot, so that leaves a lot of one on ones for the D line and other blitzers to come in. So that just makes everyone on the defense side look better. For the offense, Jordan Love, the offense looks good. There's not that many flaws with this offense. They're gonna make connections with. I mean, he has a lot of receivers. I mean, he has rookie Matthew Golden. He has Jordan Reed, his running back Josh Jacobs. He has Tucker Kraft. They got options, and so they're going to be a really, really hard out throughout this whole season. For Washington aspect of it, they made it interesting toward the end a little bit, but for the most part, they weren't really in this game. I mean, the defense kind of overwhelmed them, and they weren't really able to push the ball as much. So I'm not worried too much about Washington, though. However, it's just Green Bay is just a whole nother level. And for Washington's sake, as long as Jane Daniels is just making plays, I'm not really worried about him. As long as he's healthy, I'm not really worried about Washington. All right, cool. So moving on with the Giants and the Cowboys. For the Cowboys aspect of it, last week they played a good game last week. They should have won last Thursday against Philadelphia, but with this game up against the Giants, I think they should win this game. I'm actually going to lean towards the Cowboys in this game just because I think Dak and CD is going to be a top 5 quarterback slash wide receiver duo. I think George Pickens will make some plays too. That's going to help the Cowboys push the ball down the field. And also for the Giants' sake of it, I think the D line and the defense is going to be okay. They'll be able to hold up. It's just I don't know how well Russ is going to be able to come back and make plays. I don't think. I think last week they only were able to score maybe like 6 points, 9 points, something like that. I don't think they're going to be held to just field goals every game. But I do think Russ and the Giants will be able to push the ball down the field. It's just with Malik Neighbors, besides him, there's not a lot of whole options for Russ to push the ball down the field. All right, cool. So moving on with the next game, we have the Niners and the Saints. I think this is going to be maybe not the most exciting game, but for New Orleans' sake of it, this is just to see maybe Desmond Ritter can find a way to find a rhythm, find a way to push the ball down the field. For the Niners aspect of it, that's who I'm leaning on. I think that's who I think is going to win this game too. For the Niners, I think Brock Purdy is going to be able to push the ball down the field a little bit better than the Saints. The defense will be able to help and hold up, so I'm leaning towards the Niners. All right, cool. So in the next we have Bears Lions. For the Bears aspect of it, so last week when they played the Vikings, yeah, I know Caleb missed some throws, but for that first half, they looked good. So if Ben Johnson, Caleb can find ways to play like they did in the first half consistently throughout 4 quarters in a whole football game, not just 2 quarters and then just like they just let the Vikings score, I think 21 or 28, I think it was 21 points unanswered. And the offense in the second half for Chicago just fell asleep. So we need to find ways to be more consistent. Don't just put your foot on the gas for 1, 2 quarters, and then by the second half, you're just going to fall asleep and play defense throughout the rest of the game. For the choice aspect of it, I don't think they're going to play or struggle as much as well as they did with the Packers. Again, I think the Packers are just on a whole nother level with Micah in that defense now. I am a little worrisome about the O line for Detroit, but I don't believe Jared Goff and how much experience this team has been through together that they're gonna just be a flop and play like they did last week against the Packers all season long. That's hard for me to believe. This team is too talented and too good for that. They have too many playmakers on the offensive side. So I believe this will be a good comeback game for the Lions and be able to have to show the NFL that they are still the same Lions that we know. All right, moving on. We got Panthers, Cardinals. I think this is going to be. I think this is actually could be an exciting game. Actually, you got two young quarterbacks, Bryce Young and Kyler Murray. Both of them got two stud wide receivers too, with Terry McMillan and Marvin Harrison Jr. So for Carolina's sake of it, I just want to see them get a flow, get rhythm. They look rough last week, and this is kind of a now or never year for Bryce Young. So I don't want to put too much pressure and overact too much, but this is a game where, for Bryce Young's sake of it, we want to find a rhythm. We want to get into the flow of things and find ways to be able to push the ball down the field. The defense will come together, but we just need on the offense side of it, we just need to be able to put points on the board. For Arizona's sake of it, I just think they'll be able to come out this game with the W. Um, I just think Kyler Murray is going to be able to make more plays since he's more agile with his feet. He's going to be able to roll out left or right, roll out the pocket, get out of pressure, and be able to make first downs with his legs. So that's what's going to lead me. I think it's going to be a low scoring game, but I think it's going to come down to Arizona. All right, final game that we have here talking about is the Sunday night game too. Atlanta, Minnesota. I think this is going to be a good game too. You have two young quarterbacks. Last week, Minnesota, we seen it looked like they were dead in the waters in the first half, and then JJ McCarthy was able to make a comeback. Second half, the offense for Minnesota turned on, and Kevin O'Connell and the offense were able to score 21 unanswered points. So, and I think also the defense will be able to hold up too, even though linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel will be out for Sunday's game, but for Atlanta's sake of it, Michael Penix did look pretty good. They were able to hold the lead for most of the game, but they were able to let Tampa come back in the end of the fourth quarter. But overall, Atlanta looks good. I think the defense is going to be able to feed off the offense, and I think Michael Penix is going to be able to grow, not quickly, but I think he's going to be able to grow in a fair amount of time in this league and be able to make plays and make it look like he belongs in the NFL.